Psalm chapter 1. This particular psalm does have symmetry to it. We can see, it's only 6 verses, but we can see there's a pattern that is involved in it. Verses 1 and 2 describe what the blessed do not do. All right, and this is going to be comparison by way of action. 3 and 4 is comparing the blessed to the wicked. Verse 5 is what the wicked do not do. And then verse 6 is the outcome for both groups in this. Now, we start with the blessed. And this is very different than the pronouncement of blessing that one has in the Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. That is a positive sort of thing. Blessed are those that do this. Well, with this particular, Psalm 1 is saying, blessed is the man who walks not. This is what the blessed do not do. They're not doing this. To be blessed, there are things to be done. Yeah, meekness is done. Hungering and thirsting after righteousness. Of one who is spiritually hungry. All right, there is someone who is blessed, but blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the paths of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. And I tell you, this sounds to me like it could very well be placed into the book of Proverbs, and it fits perfectly. It fits seamlessly, as a matter of fact. It would do that. Now let's look at this, because we have these actions: walks, stands, sits. But here it is a progression, or you could think of it as an escalation, but it is moral degeneration. That each one of these is a step downward. Each one of these. Blessed is the man who doesn't even start out in this. All right, because that's what it's going to. Blessed is the man that does not take the first step in this direction. The direction, that path of sinners. Don't do it. Okay, so he doesn't walk in the counsel of the ungodly. All right, that is the starting point. That's seriously bad advice. That the counsel of the wicked, the counsel of the ungodly, what do you think they're going to tell you? The counsel of the ungodly is not going to be considering what is genuinely good. And you couldn't count on them to do such a thing. You couldn't count on them at all. But here is this starting point of the counsel of the ungodly, and it starts with listening and taking that step downward, taking that step down in this moral degeneration. Proverbs 1 and verse 10, my son, if sinners entice you, do not listen. There's that first bit right there. There is that counsel of the ungodly. And with that one, in Proverbs chapter 1 verse 10, following verses, it's talking about someone who potentially could be tempting that son, Solomon's son, into a very wicked life of theft and murder. And it's organized crime. It's a group coming together in order to do this. This is just one temptation, one pressure that could come upon anybody. But Satan has more than one temptation. But here is this idea of don't even listen. Do not consent. Do not listen to this counsel at all. Now, every road, every path has a final destination. And there are certain highways on this continent that they literally end at the beach. You can't go any further. They literally end at the beach, and that's the end. It will take you from one shore to another shore. And if you don't start down that road, you don't get to the destination. If you never start down that road, you will never get to where the end of that road goes. And that is the beginning of that road, that first step is going to be listening to bad counsel. It's listening now. But now we come to the next one, and it's that stand in the paths of sinners. Here it is, a following. You wouldn't be on this path if you hadn't listened. All right? My dad told me when I was a child, he told me that if you, and this concerns social drinking, he said, if you never take the first drink, you never have to worry about taking the last drink. And that's the first step. If you never take the first step, you never have to worry about getting off that road. If you're on a bad road, now you got to worry about how am I getting off of this. But if you never got on that road, you don't have to worry about it at all. There's nothing to worry about, and truly there would be blessing there. The wicked counsel leads to this path. Now we come to this one. This is the worst of it all. That of sitting in the seat of the scornful. You're not a listener. You're not a follower. You're a leader now. You're one of them. You're in the seat of the scornful. You're among the chiefest of them. You are now a full-fledged member and ruling over others, giving bad advice. Here is this scornful, now being part of this, the scornful, giving ungodly counsel. Here leading others down the path of sinners. Here is this, each step taken weakens you for the next step down. That's what occurs in this. And is there a way to avoid all this? Yeah, it starts with don't listen. Do not take heed to any of this. And yeah, I've just brought in some other things from Proverbs. This is from 2, beginning in verse 12, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things. Now, in this particular example, as opposed to what we were reading from Proverbs chapter 1, all right, this sort of person, this man who speaks perverse things, may not be speaking about theft at all, or murder at all. That clearly is what was going on in chapter 1, because they're very, very specific about it. We will shed innocent blood. They lie in wait for blood. All right? Now, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things. Here's someone else you must avoid. You don't listen to this at all. For those who leave the path of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perversity of the wicked, this is what they love. Stay away from this. This is another path that leads to destruction. This is another path that takes you there to the seat of the scornful, whose ways are crooked and who are devious in their paths. There's nothing really good about them. All right, here's this perverse person. They speak perverse things. They delight in wickedness. They're not so much in protecting the innocent and punishing the wicked so much as they are protecting the wicked, and everybody else can just go off the face of the earth. They don't care. To deliver you, this continues on. Verse 16, to deliver you from the immoral woman, from the seductress who flatters with her words. Now, this flattery isn't for joining in with organized crime and stealing and bloodshed. This has nothing to do with that whatsoever. This is this seductress, this adulteress, who forsakes the companion of her youth, that would be her husband, and forgets the covenant of her God, that would be the vows she took in that marriage, that they mean nothing to her, nothing at all. And marriage is, at this point, just an inconvenience for her. For her house leads down to death, and her paths to the dead. Well, there's the destination. You head down this road, down this path. That's the end point. That's the conclusion. That's where that road led to. You don't know it, have no idea. But Solomon is trying, and it's the Holy Spirit working through Solomon, inspiring him to teach us all. None who go to her return, nor do they regain the paths of life. Stay away. And the book of Proverbs is to try to teach his son the next king, and for the rest of us as well. Now we come back to Psalm 1 and verse 2. But his delight, that's the blessed one, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. Here is someone that loves the stability, loves the fact that this has been given to us by God, loves the fact that we are created for this very thing. We're created for this, and that's why there can be a love for it and a great appreciation for it. And that here is someone that truly wants law and order. Here is someone that truly wants what is best for everybody, what truly would be justice, what would be wise, what would be the right thing to do. And he meditates on that law day and night. Now there would be those among the ungodly who would see this as being corny. Those who would be cynical would see this as nobody does that at all. Well, that's just cynicism coming through. That's all that is. Yeah, there are. There have been plenty who have done this. But understand that the wicked are doing the same thing, just in the opposite direction. The wicked meditate on that day and night. And they know they do. In Genesis 6:5 describes the world as every intent of the thoughts of his heart, that is mankind, was only evil continually. Would that be meditating on that day and night? Yes. That is where the purpose of your life is now making up evil and performing it, or having others do it. All right, and corrupting others. Well, that's demonic. As no other word for it. That is demonic. That's exactly what Satan and devils and demons do. And the righteous reject those things, all of this wickedness, for the ways of God. They see nothing but chaos, instability, bloodshed, every sort of... We've talked about this before. And I remember discovering this when I was in high school. That with the kids, and I was one of them, that there would be this level of, we would just call it sin, this level of sin, and most of it would have to do with parties and drinking and the like, that they had this level of sin that they thought that would be beautiful. That would be just the paradise upon the earth in doing these things and naively, unaware that just because you have this level doesn't mean that the next guy to you is at this level. He's comfortable taking it a few notches more. And I witnessed that. You think you're keeping it at this level? You're not going to. Hey, you're not going to, because you're getting on a slippery slope. You're not getting it on just the level that you're comfortable with. It's going to go way beyond that and become the slippery slope, or we can change that metaphor to a runaway train. That's what it's going to be. Now, you can hop off that train. Well, where's there to go? Here. This is the only place you can go to get off that train. This is the only place you can go to get off that slope. It is the law of God. And it's His law that is absolutely firm ground. Now we come to this. And it's verses 3 and 4, comparison of the blessed with the wicked, and it's tree and chaff. Verse 3, He, That is the blessed, the one who meditates on the law of God. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf shall not wither, also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. Here is someone that continues year by year and remains faithful, actually produces something good, not producing wickedness, not wicked imagination, day and night, coming up with new schemes, coming up with some new plan to take advantage of people. Here is this one who is well supplied, planted by rivers of water. Yeah, it's a well supplied tree. That's a tree that has everything. And there, year after year, it produces good. That's what it does. When I was a child, where I grew up, outside my house, at the side of the yard, there was a huge oak tree. I always remember it as being big. And left there many years ago and went back literally 30 years later. Hadn't been there very often at all in that time, but coming back 30 years later, that tree was still there. And to me, I couldn't tell. Honestly, I couldn't tell if it had grown. It had to have grown in 30 years. But when I was a kid, it always seemed huge to me. But there it was. It was the same tree. It was there. It continued to be there. And it was a beautiful tree. Just this massive, beautiful tree, and it continued to be there. Now, we come to this next part describing the wicked. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. It's not going to be there 30 years later. It's not going to be there 30 seconds later. It's gone. It's gone, and there's nothing stable about that person. And I see all sorts of people. Some of them very renowned, some of them very respected by certain segments anyway. And I see someone that's just chaff in the wind. You can rejoice however you're going to rejoice. You can party however you're going to party. You can think well of yourself however long you think that's going to happen. But it's going to be that when the wind kicks up, you're gone. You're gone. You are like the chaff. Years ago, I was in the Philippines, and we were going to a specific place out in the country, and there was this big plant, as in factory, where local farmers would bring their rice in, and the rice would be threshed. They take the husk off of the rice. Well, you keep the rice itself, the husk, they got to get rid of, and they would just dump it, actually. So you had these mountains of husk, or mountains of chaff. And all that chaff was good for is what they were doing, which was burning it, is what they were doing. And yeah, if the wind came, it would start taking, it's almost like sand dunes, huge dunes of chaff, mountains of chaff. Wind comes by, it'll just start blowing the chaff away. But what is it actually good for? Well, burning or for compost. That's it. There's nothing else. It's not going to produce anything that is good. It's not something that's going to last very long whatsoever. It's not something that's going to be there year after year after year, and whose leaf never withers, never fades, that is always producing fruit in season. It's always doing that. The chaff doesn't do that at all. Well, that's the ungodly, because the ungodly doesn't do anything, produces nothing good. May think they do, may convince themselves they do, but we can see from places like Psalm 14 and verse 1, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. That's an atheist. Now the ungodly may not necessarily be an atheist, but the foolish said in his heart, there is no God. There is no God. They have done, there's none that does good. They have done abominable works. God does not respect anything that they may have done. He doesn't see it as any good at all. And so, let's now go to this. What the ungodly will never do. We've already seen what the blessed will never do. Now we'll see what the ungodly will never do. Therefore, the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment. They'll be in judgment, all right, but they're not going to stand. They're not going to be able to withstand. They're not going to be able to be before God as righteous, as whole, as pure. They're going to stand as guilty. They're not going to stand before the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Sinners are not going to be able to stand there. That the congregation of the righteous, God knows who they are. God knows one of His sheep and a wolf that happens to be there. God knows the difference between one that belongs to Him and another that's just a pretender. To most of the Jews, I would suspect, I talked about the Pharisees this morning. The scribes and the Pharisees probably were highly respected by your usual, typical Jew in the first century. They were respected, but Christ didn't respect anything about them. They sit in Moses' seat, meaning they have a certain authority. You have to respect that authority. But as far as their righteousness, if your righteousness does not exceed the Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, this is what the ungodly never will do. And now we have the outcome in all this. And this is sure as anything that you can count on. This is absolutely sure. This is the final comparison. For God knows the way of the righteous. He knows who belongs to Him. Knows everyone by name, by action, by faithfulness, by character. Everything, our entire history, our entire existence, He knows. And He would have to. He would have to. But in fact, He does. He knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. All right, that's a promise. Should you be fearful of that? If you are an enemy of God, if you have made yourself ungodly, yeah, you better fear that. But here is the good news. The good news is you don't have to be in the way of the ungodly. You don't have to perish. You don't have to be any of that. You can, in fact, change. We are not created to sin. We're not created to be tossed away into hell. No one is. We're all created good, but we fail God. Therefore, we need Him. This is Psalm 1, 6 verses, starting an extraordinary book, and one that is, there's always a depth in Scripture. Always. Always something about it that you never realized before. There's always something there. And I dare say you can take one of the Psalms and put it beside some great poet. And you're going to, you give an honest hearing, you're going to see that the Psalm has more to it than just emotion. Emotion's great, but there's more to it than that. It's more than just expressing some beautiful words. It's more than that. The Psalms, I mean, because the Psalms carry a far greater weight. And you have doors that open up that you never knew were there, just by an extraordinary placement of a word. And you have a truth that takes you all the way into eternity. This evening, let's look at our lives. This evening, if there's anything we need to do to correct, we need to prepare ourselves for judgment. And it's never too late as long as you have breath. But if you have breath, you need to do something about it now, because there is a point when God brings it to a close and there's nothing you can do to reopen it. There's nothing. No amount of weeping, no amount of wailing, no amount of pleading, none of it. It is done. This evening, if you need to respond to the invitation, we ask that you come as we stand and sing.